The Arctic Ocean in winter is not a place for hesitation. The ice beneath your feet shifts and groans with the tides, and the air temperature can plummet to 40 degrees below zero. In this environment, a single walrus can mean the difference between a family's survival and starvation through the long polar night. For the Inuit hunters of the northern coasts, the walrus hunt is not sport. It is obligation, necessity, and a practice refined over thousands of years into an art form that balances respect, courage, and intimate knowledge of one of the ocean's most formidable creatures. The walrus, known as Ivik in Inuktitut, can weigh over 2,000 pounds. Males grow tusks that extend 3 feet from their skulls, weapons capable of puncturing the hull of a small boat or goring a polar bear. Their hide is 2 inches thick in places, armor of blubber and skin that has evolved to withstand the crushing pressure of deep dives and the relentless cold of Arctic waters. To hunt such an animal without modern firearms, as the Inuit did for millennia, required not just bravery, but a sophisticated understanding of animal behavior, ice dynamics, ocean currents, and the careful construction of specialized tools. The preparation for a walrus hunt begins long before the hunters step onto the ice. It starts in the workshop, where the hunting implements are crafted with the same care a surgeon gives to selecting scalpels. The harpoon is the primary weapon, and its design is a masterpiece of Arctic engineering. The shaft is traditionally made from driftwood, a precious commodity in a treeless landscape. But the hunter selects a piece of wood that has been seasoned by years in the saltwater, strengthening its fibers and giving it the flexibility to bend without breaking when a 2,000-pound animal thrashes against it. The harpoon head is detachable, carved from walrus ivory or bone, and sharpened to a needle point. This toggling head is perhaps the most ingenious component. When it enters the walrus, it is aligned with the shaft. But once inside the thick blubber and muscle, the head rotates 90 degrees, creating an anchor that cannot be pulled free. This rotation is achieved through careful shaping of the base and the attachment point, allowing the head to pivot while remaining connected to a length of strong rope made from braided sealskin, or later, when available, from beluga whale sinew. Each strand of this rope is tested repeatedly because a single weak point means the loss of not just the walrus, but potentially the lives of the hunters if the animal drags them into the freezing water. The hunt itself demands patience that would exhaust most modern people. The hunters travel across the sea ice, reading its surface like a text. They know that walrus prefer areas where the ice meets open water, where they can haul themselves onto solid platforms to rest between feeding dives. Finding these locations requires understanding the currents, the wind patterns, and the seasonal movements of the herds. In spring, when walrus migrate north following the retreating ice edge, the hunters position themselves along known travel routes, sometimes waiting for days in makeshift shelters built from ice blocks and seal skins. When a herd is spotted, the approach begins. Walrus have poor eyesight but excellent hearing and a keen sense of smell. The hunters move downwind, advancing across the ice in a slow crawl that can take hours to cover 100 yards. They wear white parkas made from caribou or polar bear hide to blend with the snow, and they time their movements to coincide with the natural sounds of the environment: the cracking of ice, the lapping of waves, the wind's howl. Every motion is deliberate. A walrus herd will flee at the slightest alarm, sliding into the water with surprising speed for animals of such bulk, and once they are gone, they may not return to that location for weeks. The lead hunter selects the target with care. He does not choose the largest bull, despite the prestige such a kill might bring. The massive males are dangerous, their tusks formidable weapons, and their meat is often tougher and less nutritious. Instead, he targets a younger animal or a female, someone whose meat will be tender and whose blubber layer will be thick with the calories needed to sustain a family through the winter. The Inuit philosophy of hunting is not about dominance or trophy collection. It is about taking what is needed with the least possible waste and the greatest respect for the animal whose life is being taken. The moment of the throw is a culmination of years of training. The hunter rises from his crouch, the harpoon balanced in his hand, his arm cocked back. He has practiced this throw since childhood, aiming at targets on the beach, learning to compensate for wind and distance. The harpoon must strike a specific area, eye behind the flipper where the blubber is thinnest and the vital organs are most accessible. A strike to the heavily muscled neck or the thick hide of the back may wound but not secure the animal. The throw is smooth and powerful, the shaft whistling through the air, and when it connects, the sound is a dull thud, the toggling head disappearing into the walrus's body. The walrus's reaction is immediate and violent. It bellows, a sound that reverberates across the ice like a foghorn, and its massive body convulses. The other members of the herd panic, their flippers scrambling for purchase as they surge toward the water. The wounded animal tries to follow, but the harpoon line is already secured. The hunters, working as a coordinated team, brace themselves, wrapping the rope around ice projections or driving stakes into the frozen surface. So the walrus pulls against them with the force of a truck, the rope creaking and stretching, and the ice beneath the hunter's feet shudders with the strain. This is the most dangerous phase. A walrus in the water is nearly impossible to recover without a boat, and even with one, the animal can dive deep, dragging equipment and sometimes hunters down with it. The team must keep the walrus on the ice or in shallow water where it cannot escape. They give the rope slack when the animal pulls hardest, then reel it in during moments of exhaustion, a battle that can last 30 minutes or more. The physical exertion is immense. In sub-zero temperatures, the hunters sweat beneath their parkas, and managing body temperature becomes critical. Too much heat leads to moisture, and moisture in clothing can freeze, turning insulation into a conductor of cold that can cause hypothermia. When the walrus finally weakens, the hunters move in for the secondary kill. One hunter approaches with a lance, a shorter spear with a fixed blade, and drives it into the heart or lungs. This requires getting within arm's reach of an animal that can still swing its tusks with lethal force. The hunter watches the walrus's eyes, reading its remaining strength, timing his strike for a moment when the animal's head is turned. The lance penetrates deep, and the walrus shudders one final time before going still. There is no celebration, no triumphant shouts. The hunters pause, and the eldest among them speaks a few words of thanks to the animal's spirit, acknowledging the sacrifice and asking forgiveness for the necessity of the kill. This is not superstition, so it is a foundational element of Inuit spirituality, the understanding that all life is connected and that taking a life, even for survival, carries a responsibility. The work of butchering a 2,000-pound walrus on the ice is a monumental task. The hunters begin by rolling the animal onto its back, using ropes and leverage because the dead weight is too great to move by muscle alone. They make the first incision along the belly, cutting through the thick hide with curved knives called Inuit, blades designed specifically for this purpose. The hide peels back in heavy sheets, revealing the layer of blubber beneath, a yellow-white fat that can be 6 inches thick. This blubber is not waste. It is fuel, food, and light. Rendered into oil, it will burn in stone lamps called quillik, on providing warmth and illumination through the months of polar darkness. Beneath the blubber lies the meat, dark red and dense. The hunters work methodically, removing the organs first. The liver, kidneys, and heart are delicacies, rich in vitamins that are scarce in the Arctic diet. The intestines are cleaned and will later be used as containers for storing oil or as waterproof material for making windows in ice houses. Nothing is discarded without consideration. Even the stomach contents, partially digested shellfish and clams, are examined because they provide information about the walrus's feeding grounds, knowledge that will inform future hunts. The tusks are removed by carefully cutting through the bone at the base of the skull. These ivory tusks are valuable. not just as trade goods but as raw material for carving tools, these harpoon heads, and artwork. The skull itself, massive and dense, is too heavy to transport in most cases, but the hunters may extract teeth or sections of bone that can be shaped into smaller implements. The hide, once fully removed, is rolled and tied. At home, it will be staked out and scraped clean of remaining fat, then either tanned for use in boat construction or cut into strips for rope and lashings. The meat is sectioned into manageable pieces, each cut following the natural divisions of muscle groups. The hunters know exactly how to separate the shoulder from the torso, how to remove the flippers with their joints intact, and how to portion the massive haunches. These pieces, some weighing 100 pounds or more, are loaded onto sleds. In the past, these sleds were pulled by dog teams. The Inuit sled dogs bred for strength and endurance in extreme cold. Each dog could pull twice its body weight, and a team of 8 to 10 dogs could transport the entire walrus back to the village over the course of several trips. The journey back across the ice is itself fraught with danger. The added weight of the meat makes the sled slower, and the hunters must navigate around pressure ridges where ice plates have collided and buckled upward into jagged barriers. They watch constantly for signs of thin ice, areas where the surface appears darker or where water seeps up through cracks. Breaking through the ice with a loaded sled is a potential death sentence. The cold water would soak through clothing in seconds, and the weight of the sled could drag both dogs and men under the surface. Upon reaching the village, the distribution of the walrus follows traditional protocols that have maintained social cohesion for generations. The successful hunter does not keep the entire kill for his family. Specific portions are given to the elders, to the toolmaker who crafted the harpoon, to families who have recently experienced hardship or loss. The flippers, considered a delicacy, might go to the eldest woman in the community. The heart and tongue are often shared in a communal meal. This system of distribution ensures that even those unable to hunt, the elderly, the injured, the widowed, receive the nutrition they need to survive. It is a social safety net embedded in cultural practice, and it reinforces the understanding that survival in the Arctic is a collective endeavor. The preservation of the meat is critical because a single walrus, even one weighing 2,000 pounds, must sustain a family or extended group through weeks or months. Some meat is consumed fresh, boiled in pots over seal oil lamps, or roasted over small fires made from precious driftwood. Fresh walrus meat is chewy and rich, with a flavor influenced by the animal's diet of clams and mussels. The blubber is eaten raw or lightly cooked, sliced thin and dipped in seal oil. To modern palates, this might seem unpalatable, but in the Arctic, fat is not just food, it is survival. The human body burns calories at an accelerated rate in extreme cold, and fat provides twice the caloric density of protein or carbohydrates. Much of the meat is preserved through freezing, the Arctic itself serving as a natural freezer. Pieces are buried in snow or stored in ice cellars dug into the permafrost, where temperatures remain stable well below zero year-round. Frozen walrus meat can remain edible for months, and the Inuit have developed specific cutting techniques to facilitate freezing and later thawing. Meat is sometimes sliced thin before freezing, allowing it to thaw more quickly when needed. Other pieces are left in large chunks, which freeze solid and can be sawed apart with bone or later metal saws. Another preservation method is fermentation, a process that creates foods like iguanak. Walrus meat is placed in a sealskin bag with blubber. The bag is sealed airtight, and the contents are allowed to ferment over weeks or months. The fermentation process, driven by natural bacteria, breaks down some of the proteins and creates a product with a strong, pungent flavor. This method has the added benefit of concentrating certain nutrients and making the meat safer to eat by lowering its pH, which inhibits the growth of harmful pathogens. Fermented foods also provide variety in a diet that can become monotonous and offer probiotics that aid digestion. The byproducts of the walrus continue to provide value long after the meat is consumed. The bones, large and dense, are shaped into tools. Ribs become sled runners or framework for kayaks. Vertebrae are carved into bowls or used as cutting surfaces. Smaller bones become needles, awls, or game pieces. The sinew, extracted from along the spine and the legs, is dried and separated into fine threads. This sinew is stronger than plant-based cordage and is used to stitch together waterproof seams in kayaks and umiaks, the larger skin boats used for whaling and long-distance travel. The hide of the walrus, after tanning, becomes covering for umiaks. These boats, which can be 30 feet long and carry a dozen people plus cargo, require hides that can withstand the abrasion of ice and the stress of ocean waves. Walrus hide, thick and durable, is ideal. The tanning process involves scraping away all fat and flesh, then treating the hide with a mixture that might include urine, which contains ammonia that breaks down proteins, or with rendered brains, which provide oils that keep the leather supple. The hide is stretched and worked repeatedly, pounded with stones and flexed by hand until it becomes pliable. The finished product is waterproof and incredibly tough, capable of lasting years with proper maintenance. Not even the tusks continue their utility cycle. Beyond their role in tool creation, ivory is carved into intricate artwork, a practice that has deep cultural significance. These carvings depict animals, hunting scenes, and spiritual figures, serving as both artistic expression and as teaching tools to pass knowledge to younger generations. The act of carving is meditative and requires intimate knowledge of the material. Walrus ivory has a grain, and carving against it can cause the piece to split. The carver learns to read these patterns, working with the natural structure of the tusk to create forms that seem to emerge from the ivory itself rather than being imposed upon it. The spiritual dimension of the walrus hunt cannot be separated from its practical aspects. The Inuit worldview does not divide the sacred from the mundane. The hunt is a ritual, the butchering is ceremony, and the sharing of meat is communion. There are stories passed down through oral tradition about hunters who disrespected the animals they killed, who wasted meat or boasted excessively, and who subsequently faced misfortune. These stories serve as moral instruction, reminding each generation that humility and gratitude are not optional virtues, but essential components of survival. In contemporary times, the walrus hunt continues in many Inuit communities, though it has adapted to include modern tools. Rifles have largely replaced harpoons for the initial kill, reducing the danger to hunters and increasing the success rate. Snowmobiles have replaced dog teams for transportation, allowing hunters to cover greater distances and return more quickly. However, use of the core principles remain unchanged. The hunt is still a communal activity. The distribution still follows traditional patterns, and the respect for the animal is still paramount. Inuit hunters today face new challenges. Climate change is altering ice patterns, making traditional hunting grounds unpredictable. Outside regulations sometimes conflict with traditional practices, and the introduction of commercial markets can disrupt the gift economy that sustained Arctic communities for centuries. The physical challenges of hunting a 2,000-pound walrus in one of Earth's most hostile environments reveal the extraordinary capabilities of human adaptation. The Inuit did not survive the Arctic by fighting against it, but by learning its rhythms, respecting its power, and developing technologies that worked with the environment rather than trying to dominate it. The walrus hunt exemplifies this approach. It requires reading ice conditions with the precision of a scientist, understanding animal behavior with the insight of a naturalist, and possessing the physical courage of a warrior. It demands tools crafted with the skill of an engineer and a social structure that prioritizes collective welfare over individual gain. When a family gathers around a meal of walrus meat in the depths of winter, with the wind howling outside and the temperature 60 below zero, they are participating in a tradition that stretches back thousands of years. That meat represents not just calories and nutrition, but the accumulated wisdom of countless generations who learned through trial, error, and observation how to thrive in a place that seems designed to kill humans. It represents a relationship with the natural world that is both practical and profound, based on the understanding that humans are not separate from nature, but embedded within it, dependent on it, and responsible to it. The Inuit hunt of a 2,000-pound walrus is a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and the power of cultural knowledge. It shows that survival in extreme environments requires more than strong bodies or sharp minds. It requires community, tradition, respect for the resources that sustain life, and the willingness to accept the risks inherent in wresting food from a landscape that offers it grudgingly. In an age where most people are insulated from the sources of their food, where meat comes wrapped in plastic from refrigerated cases, the walrus hunt serves as a reminder of what it actually takes to feed a family when the stakes are life and death, and the margin for error is measured in degrees of frost and the strength of a harpoon line.